So I'm here with Simon Borg-Olivier, probably my most important, definitely over the last 5 years or so, most important, most influential teacher. And as the students of my courses and the students of this place, Lanka Yoga, know, we've been really heavily influenced by your work. Beyond influence, I think your work creates the foundation for the yoga that we teach. And it's been a pleasure to have you here for the last week or so, sharing it directly with us and with those same students. So thank you for being here.
Honestly, Stefan, it's been my absolute pleasure being here. Myself and Amalia, my daughter, are having the best time. Fantastic venue, amazing students. I love being here with you. The food is incredible, the staff are amazing. And it's just magical to be in Sri Lanka. I'm really, really enjoying my time here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Simon. I think something that we both kind of confront in different ways is the challenges of modern yoga and of people coming to our classes or our workshops or trainings or whatever with a very, let's say, compromised view of what yoga is. Especially something that maybe doesn't work so much for their bodies. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that yoga came to the West not that long ago, and it really came to the mainstream West from about 1995, and then there was this sudden influx of very rapid teacher training, where potentially yoga it has the potential to do as much as a person who is a physiotherapist, a doctor, a psychologist, a master practitioner, and sports person, all rolled into one. And unfortunately, yoga got dished out by, teacher training organizations, large multinational organizations which collect a lot of money to certify people within 200 hours. And then it reduced the credibility of yoga and made it a little bit washed over. I feel like I've been practicing for 55 years. And I feel like a beginner. I feel like every day I learn something new. I'm learning a lot just being here with you and the other people you've gathered here. So it saddens me to think that many people are giving yoga a really bad reputation because it's ridiculed in many places as being ineffective work, because you can't learn something like this in the space of a couple of weeks and expect to teach it to other people. You can learn something in a couple of weeks. But, I really respect that you've taken the time to continue your learning and that you've invited me to come and you've learned with other people as well. And I think that's the biggest problem with modern yoga, that it's been shortcutted and people are trying to learn things which really have taken millennia to come to fruition. And the other thing is that the yoga that's being taught in the world today utilizes posture, movement, and breathing techniques that work really well and naturally if you're talking about a natural body. If you're talking about the type of human that's been brought up in a traditional world scene where maybe they sit cross-legged for every meal, where they squat to go to the toilet, where they walk as their main mode of transport, as opposed to the modern person who sits in a chair to eat, sits in the chair to go to the toilet, sits in a chair to go everywhere, not walking. And this leads to tremendous changes in the hips, in the knees, in the spine, phenomenally so, in the back. And of course, along with that, the back gets compressed in a way that most people actually inhibit breathing then. And not only is breathing inhibited, but internal organ function is inhibited. And then with the mentality of the West being it's not so much about the journey, it's more about the destination. You've got to look good no matter how it feels. No pain, no gain, survival of the fittest. If you're good, you've got to go to heaven. If you're bad, you've got to go to hell. People approach exercise like this. They approach yoga like this. And it completely kills the ethics and the philosophy of yoga and makes it more of something to achieve rather than a way of being and a philosophy of life. And that, to me, is a big shame. And that's why I think there's a lot of problems in the world of yoga today, and it's not as effective as it could be.
So one of the problems is obviously the way that it has been commercialized and marketed, and the social media phenomenon and all of these things. It becomes a very visual practice and things like that. You also mentioned the kind of teacher trainings. Do you think it's also a bit of an issue that the lineages of old, say the Ashtanga Vinyasa lineage of Pattabhi Jois or the Iyengar lineage, they had some kind of credibility. And now that those lineages, they're still there, but most people are studying outside of that. That where's the, I don't want to say guru, but where's the core of the information? Where's the thing that the person who checks it over, who ticks off the cues or the instructions or the sequences or whatever? There's a certain freedom which I think people really enjoy in modern yoga. Freedom of, 15, 20 poses that they repeat, but it still can be expressive, but no one ticks it off. No one says, that's good, or that's not.
You're right, no one ticks it off. But as a person who has been doing what looks like modern yoga, what did look like modern yoga back from the 1970s and 80s, I see what's being taught by most people in the world today, and it's not even as good as what was being taught in the 1980s, but I also see that the effects on my body and the effects of many of my comrades, associates, who practiced this type of yoga in the 1980s and 90s, the results are not fantastic. Even when it was taught better, when, to become a teacher wasn't just 200 hours. To become a teacher, you had to study with BKS Iyengar or Pattabhi Jois or something like this for 10 years. Even the people who trained like that, and I was trained like that, the results were not fantastic. Many people, after 20, 30 years of practice, ended up with very not so happy joints, not so happy internal organ systems. And I started to feel this was happening to myself about the time I was about 40, 45 years old. Now I'm 60, 64 coming up now. And luckily, about 20 years ago, I changed my practice quite significantly and made it much more of a practice which was nurturing health, happiness, and longevity on an internal level. Less focused on how practice looks and more focusing on how it feels. If it doesn't feel good, I don't think it has good long-term results. But many of the practices you see in modern yoga are end-goal orientated. They want to try and achieve the picture in the book or the way the movement's supposed to look like, and not concerned enough about how it feels.
Yeah.
Physiological health, I think, is more important than physical health.
Yeah.
Mental health is more important than physiological. Of course, we want a pain-free body, which is functional. That's important. But then on top of that, you don't need to stick your legs behind the head and do a scorpion to function in life. But what we do need is a healthy immune system, digestive, reproductive system, and that's more my focus now. And when you've got a healthy immune system, reproductive and digestive system, to get that happening, you need two things. You need to make blood flow through your body, but without the heart racing. And most people are focusing on cardio. Cardio is the short word, Australian word, for cardiovascular. And a healthy cardiovascular system is one where the blood flows very easy, but the heart rate stays low. And it's also, you hardly breathe at all, but energy flows through you very easily. And one of the adages of traditional yoga is the yogi counts their life not by the number of years they live, but by the number of breaths they take, the number of beats their heart makes. But in the modern world of yoga, you're hearing a lot of, got to get the heart rate up, got to breathe more. And that's the exact opposite of what yoga was when I was taught it by my father initially, who was a free diver, and he taught me that back in 1965, 66, breathe less, not more.
So it's interesting there that you mentioned that those old lineages, it was probably better in some ways than the hodgepodge of what we have now. But then you also mentioned that even people who were doing it properly, doing Ashtanga perfectly, doing Iyengar perfectly, also ended up with injuries. And that's something that people don't like to talk about. No. The senior Iyengar teachers with hip replacements, or the senior Ashtanga practitioners who don't practice anymore, this kind of thing. And I think that's where your background in anatomy physiology through your experience as a physiotherapist and is it biologist?
Yeah, I've done years of human biology. Yeah,
so like a real understanding of how the body works. Also what you mentioned about traditional people. So these practices were designed for different bodies, not just the way they were built, but because of the way that they lived their lives. So now you're kind of intersecting all of these different things. The tradition, as you said, studied with Iyengar, studied with Pattabhi Jois, studied with all of these masters that we speak about, but then adding in the physiotherapy and the real understanding of the body to create something that actually works for the people who actually come to class.
And Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
I'm kind of doing a cell, but
That's what I'm trying to do. I think I was really lucky to have received such great teachings from Iyengar, Batabi Joyce and Sri Desikachar. And, it was great to have that and then go and do my third degree at university, which was a physiotherapy degree back about 25 years ago. And I've had lots of other teachers as well, a Tibetan teacher, Japanese teachers, South African teachers. And the last 20 years, I've had Chinese teachers. And they've been amazing, including Master Zhen Hua Yang, who I really love and appreciate and still work with. And what I got from all of these people was the idea that there's many approaches to look after the health of your body. And many of the teachers, even the teachers that most of us talk about in the modern world, including the two most popular like Iyengar and the teachers of the lineage of Ashtanga Yoga, they seem to be teaching different things, but actually what I looked for was, what's the common theme? What's the common theme that seems to be the truth in Western-based exercise, in traditional yoga systems all through India, in the Qigong and martial arts of India and China, in the traditional systems of cultures all over the world? What are the common themes? And those common themes are the things that I've built into the practice that I teach more now. These things include moving actively into positions, not just dropping passively into a posture with gravity or momentum or one putting another, but how much does your body want to move by itself? Because if you move more than your body wants to move by itself, that's what seems to cause problems. But when you move with your own body's volition, then it actually has effects neurologically and also in terms of blood flow. But your nerves and your blood circulation work a lot better when you move actively. And not locking the core, but all traditional movement starts by moving from your core. And the core in many cultures has names. The most popular one in traditional cultures is the Dantian in China. That's fairly well known. Or in Japan, they talk about working from your hara, or the tanden is the center of the hara, which is basically your lower abdomen. And in the West, of course, we talk about engaging the lower abdomen, but people have misunderstood to be not just engaging the lower abdomen, but locking your core. In India, they talk about the khanda as being the central starting point of 72,000 nadis, or subtle channels. All traditional cultures talk about moving from your core, breathing from your core, and action working from your core. In the West, of course, we talk about the enteric nervous system or the gut brain. So the practice that we're doing is basically working with your gut feeling. And it sounds wishy-washy, esoteric, but really the gut feeling is an enteric nervous system, which is actually a large plexus or network of nerves, which is between the navel and the pubic bone, between the top of the hips and the tailbone, right inside. And when you really look at this structure, it's not just a mini thing. It is a maximum structure which is bigger in size than all the nerve tissue in your spinal cord, bigger in size than a cat's brain, and cats are smart. So when you actually really can work with your gut brain, then you get real connection of the thinking brain in the head, the feeling brain or gut brain at your core. And I think this is really meditation in action, when subject and object become one. And when you do this, according to real-time physiotherapy studies with ultrasound, etc., that's when the body's function works better. That's when you get better arm function, better leg function, less back pain, better internal health. And so what we're doing really is doing, I think, what traditional yoga was meant to do in the first place. But what I noticed, Stefan, was about 1989, 1990, there was physiotherapists in Australia who started talking about the core. And the research was good. They started to realize that people who were healthy would move their core first rather than their arm to grab something. But the research was not very well interpreted, and for a little while, physiotherapists in Australia were telling people to draw the navel to the spine. And this went all over the world because Australian physiotherapy is right up there. But within about 10 years, Australian physiotherapists used real-time ultrasound and found out that most people, although they were engaging their core, they were not using the right muscles. And they were using muscles which were inhibiting diaphragmatic function and actually causing stress. So physiotherapists in Australia stopped teaching what they taught in the late 80s, early 1990s, and actually restructured how they teach. However, the information of draw the navel to the spine just ad hoc went all around the world by that stage, and it's still out there. As we've discussed, it's not wrong to draw your navel to the spine, but how are you doing it? It just can't be just one way.
Yeah.
And most people who you tell them draw the navel to the spine can do it in 4 distinct different ways, but not always do they choose the right way.
Yeah, there's a certain complexity to the way that the body works.
Yes.
That I don't think can be conveyed in a 30-minute, a 45-minute, a 60-minute asana class.
No, exactly.
Or like you said, in a teacher training that goes for a few weeks. And it's a lifelong thing to understand for yourself as a practitioner. Like you said, you're still a practitioner, you're still learning, let alone as someone who teaches. So hopefully we can inspire some people to keep, people who want to be practitioners, people who want to be teachers, to keep studying, to keep learning, and to discover more.
Yes, indeed.
For more benefit.
I think to summarize what I'm saying is, when you practice yoga, it can't be just relaxation. It can't be like exercise. But somehow you want to fuse the benefits of relaxation, or essentially the benefits of really good, nourishing sleep, with the benefits of exercise at the same time. You want to be able to practice in a way where you could talk, feel happiness, feel love, but not feel stress. Once you feel stress in your practice, which is what most people do when they follow it by just lying down to relax afterwards, it's not really yoga, it's exercise followed by relaxation.
Yeah.
What you want is to feel the benefits of exercise and relaxation at the same time, to do a stress-free practice, and that will encourage blood flow and at the same time encourage the health of your immune, digestive, reproductive functions. Then you get health, happiness, and longevity. Then you start to do something which is for your life, not just for a short period of your life. And that's what we've been doing. And I'm so happy that you've been doing such a wonderful job sharing that here in this beautiful Lanka Yoga Center that you've developed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right.